Okay, Liam. So we're seeing around the world that Ask AI is very much competing with the human resource in organizations. It seems to be that the assistant tends to, at times, outsmart the human intervention. How's that possible?
Well, what we do know about humans is that we make very high quality decisions, but sometimes the decision that we make is, and I'd say it becomes a little bit murky with our emotion, which can sometimes be a strong suit
Mm,
as well. So, well, what we have found that AI does is number one, it's able to remove emotion from making a decision, which in certain instances becomes more objective. And because it's more objective, it is sometimes a higher quality decision, and that can be in itself debated. But what AI does as well, and the reason why we've seen this take very big uptake and why it had very big uptake in HR is because it is able to answer questions a lot quicker than a human can. It's
mm,
able to provide these answers to far more people. So it's allowed an HR department to throw the net a lot further out and
mm.
to reach far more people because AI naturally can handle unlimited people talking to it at the same time. And it's because of the concurrency and the speed that we find HR departments enjoy Ask AI so much.
I mean, we've seen in organizations human resourcing reduce, and through the mundane tasks of Ask AI being able to handle these questions and to be able to answer these questions in a very succinct and dynamic formula. Is this a way of the future?
Sure. So, I mean, what we have found is that from HR, the ability to answer a question with more accuracy and more detail a lot quicker is very important. But what we have found, which excites me about the future, is the fact
Mm,
that we have so many businesses across e-commerce, you have businesses across consulting that are now able to provide a higher quality response to a human. Now, it would probably be best to define what a higher quality response is. And I would put with a high quality response the speed it takes to respond to that question because if you're working with a service provider, number one, the answer they give you is very important, but it's also how punctual their answer is. And if a business is able to
sure.
give a very high quality answer very quickly through to a client or a customer, that is something that sets a business apart. Now, obviously, if many businesses start implementing AI, that's another conversation because then it's more into the effectiveness of the data that was used to provide that response. But what I would say is that, and it definitely is the way of the future, and it excites me greatly by the fact that businesses now have the opportunity to answer a customer's question or answer a prospect's question with in great detail almost instantly. And that is definitely something that is a way of the future.
It's very difficult to detect the difference between the two. I mean, most clients come to us and they say, well, is that AI or is that human? I mean, the technology has evolved to such an extent that it would be very difficult in today's world to differentiate the two voices, right?
Yeah. So and that's what's become very interesting about voice cloning. What we have found is that you never want to be deceptive in telling a client or a prospect that it isn't a
Mm,
human on the other end of the phone. But what you do want to do is you want to provide that very human and that very personal approach. And in obviously using a high quality human voice or a voice that someone may understand, you create that and you number one create that a very human effect, and you bridge you bridge the gap of the like human technology and the right word would be you bridge the gap between human and technology communication a lot easier by having a very high quality voice clone.
and of course, they work in harmony together, which is always a good thing. So, the objective is essentially not to replace, but to work in harmony and to deploy the AI assistant to facilitate mundane tasks, to handle the volume, to position the volume, to record the data accurately, and to provide data accurately. I mean, what are the other benefits that organizations are experiencing by deploying askAYYI?
So number one is, and the first thing that comes out to me is that businesses are able to convert customers and leads a lot quicker. And the
Right.
reason why is because it was shown by a Harvard Business Review study that a business that's able to respond within 60 seconds, in under 60 seconds, is 391% more likely to convert that lead or prospect. And what we have found is that, the number one thing that a business sees as benefit from askAYYI is the fact that you're able to respond to a customer instantly, which prevents them from obviously going to a competitor, or it prevents them from going through like another process of friction before contacting you. So removing the friction between
Mm,
a prospect and a company is like a very big addition. The other very big thing that I would say AI adds as a big benefit to a business is giving very quality and consistent information through to clients. So we know that sometimes if you're a large organization, you have many employees,
mm,
and few may perform better than others, and some may answer a question in far greater detail, and another employee may struggle to do so. So what we have found is that AI is able to give a very consistent and very high quality
mm.
answer every single time through to a prospect. So you are 24/7 as a business putting your best foot forward.
And of course, there's no question that it provides a sense of peace of mind to the business owner, knowing that
Correct.
his front reception is being handled so efficiently 24/7. I mean, that's got
Yeah.
to be a dynamic edge to this intervention, right?
Yeah, I mean, for the first time, a business owner can actually sleep, right? Because a business owner, whether you're an e-commerce business or whether you're a consulting business, you know that some of your
Mm,
prospects, some of your clients don't go to bed. I mean, today we live in a global world where if you are a consulting business and you're not doing business in Australia and you're not doing business in Europe and the States, then you are probably one of very few. But what we have found is that consulting businesses and e-commerce businesses anywhere you live in the world are doing business in other pockets and in other areas where we obviously have your time zone factor, and you obviously can't be in more than one place at a time. So what we have found is that the ability and the potential for businesses to
mm,
now technically be in more than one place at a time using AI is something that I think puts every business owner at peace.
mm. And how do you advocate business owners to get started? What would be the first steps that to encourage business owners to leap into this world of artificial intelligence? How would you get
So
people
very, very,
started?
very good question. Very good question. So the first point in how a business owner can really analyze their business and figure out where do I start, because we know that AI can do so much, is to figure out in a day-to-day basis what is the thing that is causing the most friction towards you actually getting what you need and achieving what you need to achieve. So we know that in every business there is a single task that every business owner goes to bed thinking, I wonder how I could improve. And if it's an e-commerce, a big thing in e-commerce might be, I'm running all of these Facebook campaigns and my conversion rate or my return on investment or my return on ad spend is just not what it should be. Number one,
Right.
askAYYI will be able to immediately add benefit to that. If you are a consulting business and you receive many website inquiries and you receive inbound inquiries on a daily
Mm,
basis, and you need to figure out how to vet these leads a lot quicker, because that is a big friction point between your business from where it is now and getting to where you want it to be. Then a good place to start would be to deploy AI to vet your leads. And if you're a business that operates and your entire model is around sales and converting
mm,
customers as quickly as possible, or if your model is on onboarding customers as quickly as possible, and the friction that you're experiencing in your business is that you're not able to convert leads quicker because you're reliant on
mm,
humans responding. Or let's say you have 10 salespeople and you receive 2,000 inquiries a day, they just can't get to everyone. That is your friction point, and that is the point I would sort of narrow down on to
as
implement
a
AI.
starting point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, of course, the return on the investment is well defined in doing what you're doing, but ensuring that you do it with precision and accuracy. And that's where essentially askAYYI comes in, because it's that net that just captures the information, right?
Yeah.
So it
Yeah. And
pulls it
I
all
mean,
together and it presents it into the right pocket with accuracy and articulation.
exactly. And we had a conversation the other day around return on investment. How do you quantify the return on investment when you look at an AI project? It's a tricky thing to quantify because it's something that, if implemented, really does change an entire process. What would
Mm.
your take be on how a business would look at quantifying a return on investment
Well,
on an AI intervention?
brilliant. I mean, a business essentially wants to ensure what they do, they're doing correctly. And
Mm,
what AI essentially does is it governs that process. So in the past, you would spend money on driving people to potentially a website and hoping that that website would be able to communicate. Well, what AI presents is an opportunity to take it to the next level, to interact with the consumer before they get to the website, so that when they get to the website, they have a direction. So it's
mm,
the entire process which is now managed. The straight line is managed, and the data that comes through enables any organization to see that they're on the right path very quickly. And the
mm,
wonderful thing is that it can be shifted and redirected in midstream, which is fantastic.
mm.
It has the intelligence to be able to evolve and to think. And that, for me, would be more than an activation. It would be a dynamic return on investment.
Yeah, yeah, and I think today more now than ever, a business is able to quantify a return on investment a lot easier. And as you mentioned, it's become a quantum that's far easier to find out because AI produces all that data, right?
Right.
So AI is now able to you're now able to, if you run a Facebook campaign or if you're running a campaign on Instagram,
Mm,
it's far easier now to see literally how many people clicked on that post to ask a question or respond, because they don't anymore just go onto your website and then get lost. They now
right.
go straight to your assistant, ask a few questions, and you're able to quantify, number one, if your marketing copy and your marketing creative was correct, and you're also able to quantify how many people click through, because you can literally track clicks on an AI assistant. So return on investment, while before implementing it, is more difficult to quantify. After the implementation, it's
Sure.
obviously very easy to track those analytics and stats.
I mean, now we can reference a client that was producing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of WhatsApp messages to their particular audience, but up until recently, they were not able to identify if their audience were even opening up the messages because they were
Mm.
static frames and pictures. And now, with the deployment of askAYYI, we've furthered the conversation with the customer. So now
Yeah,
we're formally having a conversation, whereas in the past we were just deploying a WhatsApp message. So I think
yeah, and
that's a brilliant concept of return on investment, where you're performing the action, but now you're continuing the conversation.
yeah, and I mean that's what's really interesting about it, right? Because if you look at any business owner, any marketing manager, any individual that had anything to do with sales or marketing within a business would know of the word call to action, CTA.
Mm,
Everyone says CTA, CTA in a meeting, and it's a very big topic of discussion, but no one actually really knows what CTA means. Because if your call to action is for someone to go onto your website, sure, they land on the website, and then where do they go
mm,
and what do they do? And
mm.
if your call to action is directly to a form, do they receive a WhatsApp immediately after the form? Do they have the ability to ask a question before they complete the form? So, what AI has done is it has essentially created the ultimate call to action for any business, because
Right.
what a business can now do is, if they have a form that they want to send a user to, scrap the form, use AI to vet the lead. If you were going to, in a marketing campaign, send someone to your website, well, why do you want to send them to your website? Because a website's there to educate someone, or a website is there to contact to provide someone with contact details or to learn more about your business. So, AI does exactly that. If a customer wants to learn more about your business, they can go to AI and they can ask AI to call them, and it will essentially be able to tell a customer or prospect all about your business. Number two, if they want to contact you, they're already in touch with you and they're already in contact with you. So they don't even need to get in touch with you, because you are going to, after the phone call, proactively reach out to them, and you're going to reach out to them knowing more because they've already interacted with your business. So, when you frame it that way, it becomes an absolute no-brainer for any business to implement askAYYI, because for any marketing campaign, for any sales campaign, for anything sales or marketing or operations related where there's a call to action for a client, askAYYI is essentially the only thing, and it is, I don't know how else to say it, but it is
Well,
essentially the ultimate call to action.
it's a human touch point which is fast dissipating in the world that we're living.
Exactly. And it's the only way. I mean, I can't think, maybe you could, but I can't think of any way for a business or any way in business or any technology or anything that you can potentially use or any superhuman you can employ that's going to be able to respond to your customers 24/7, going to
Yeah,
respond to them instantly, going to add the personalization that AI is
yeah,
able to add, that's going to give the context that AI can add, that's going to be able to generate a full intent document about who that person is, about their emotions, and that's going to be able to do that literally to 1,000 people at the same time, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people at the same time. That has never been possible in business, and it just shows us how the operating model and how business has fundamentally changed, because I don't think the future is somewhere in the distance. I think it's here right now, and I don't think. Well, I don't. I don't. It just isn't possible for any business to be in a position other than use a AI technology like we have today.
I'm also noticing that there's been this massive jump to want to automate, but many people and organizations don't essentially have the tools to do so. So for a consumer, it's very difficult to remain in contact with that organization because firstly, there's no one to speak to. They produce organizations often produce a chatbot which is enormously limited in its ability to provide information, and so it just essentially doesn't bridge the gap in any particular way. The concept of automation is what they're looking for, but the bridge to be able to bridge automation is missing, and that's essentially where AI steps in, and that ability to connect in the digital form with a human experience.
Yeah, and that's what's in business, and that's what's become so difficult today, because businesses look at this technology and they try to give the technology over to a
Mm,
CTO to handle, or a chief technology officer, or whatever they want to hand it over to. And we're starting to realize more and more that AI is actually a separate technology, right? It's not. It shouldn't be mixed in any way with your you know technical work within a business, for example, a CRM, a builder, or a software engineer. It's a very different technology, because it's not only coding and it's not only
mm, mm, mm,
implementing certain things. It's very language based. It's very test based, and it's a different skill set. So number one,
mm.
a business that want to get into AI shouldn't try and do it themselves. They should do it through a product or a company that offer an AI service, which is
Right.
the most important thing, because that company or business that have a product in AI have been through all of the mistakes that a business may potentially go through. So that would be the first part. The second part would be that any business that go to a service provider or a product that's trying to essentially just automate it rather than use AI to genuinely augment it, they're heading
Mm,
down the wrong path. And the reason why I say that is, many people see these chatbots, and we see chatbots all day. And I've had about 15 meetings today with a client going, but I hate a chatbot. And it's a funny thing, because chatbots aren't actually AI at all. Chatbots still use a technology called NLP, which is it lies under the umbrella of AI, but it's an old arcade version of AI. And any WhatsApp bot you would see that has a button, 99% of the time is actually not AI driven or AI powered. So what I would say is that any business that basically try to automate a process, or go with a service provider that just where there's more automation and more buttons than real intelligence and natural speaking, you're heading down the wrong path. So what I would do, and this is to cut a long story short, if you're a business today and you need to get into AI, you're not sure where to start, you're not sure what path to go down, I would definitely not do it myself. I would definitely go with a AI service provider, and fortunately, we actually are one of those. And we spend across our team, every team member spends probably 10 to 14 hours a day, literally exploring this technology.
Sure.
And what I would do is I would go through this technology and understand it in great detail about how your business would potentially be able to use an AI assistant. We spoke earlier about use case identification, figure out if you could wave a magic wand, what that would be, etc. When you have that answer, I would bring in an AI service provider like askAYYI that offers an intelligent business assistant that's able to deploy voice AI, consult with us, consult with a company that is in this realm of space, and get started on your journey from there. Don't try and do it yourself. Don't try and think or don't definitely don't confuse automation with AI, because there's a very big difference. And I would get started at those two steps,
Those ground
because
roots.
mm,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Tell me, Liam, what are the roles that are evolving through AI technology? What are the roles that are going to evolve in organizations? I mean, deploying these assistants mean that you're bringing a high level of intelligence to the table and precision. So how are roles going to evolve as to what people were doing to what they will be doing in the future with this type of technology? I mean, are websites essentially a thing of the past? Someone once mentioned to me a few weeks ago that instead of designing the website, rather design the AI assistant and then build the website around the AI assistant. So it's not the other way around. So where are we going with all of this?
Sure. So I think that every business needs to change their interview questions. I think it's now less about what knowledge you have, and more about now what experience you have. And experience
Mm,
isn't something where you need to look at someone for 10 years experience and think that they know what they're doing. I think that today it's more important about understanding what someone's experience is in like a very niche skill. So what I mean by that is, if you're sitting in a interview and a business say, and you need to basically interview someone, it doesn't matter anymore what their background is education wise, because essentially AI is able to bridge all the gaps in education. So I wouldn't ask an education question. What I would ask in a business interview, if I were to interview someone to work at my business, is something as simple as, what are your language skills? It doesn't need to be in English. It could be in essentially any language, but what are your language skills? Because today, working with AI, writing a very good email on ChatGPT, as simple as that, requires very good language skills. What I would also ask someone in an interview is, what is your like key passion? What do you really enjoy doing? And the answer shouldn't be, I like working on Excel, or I enjoy working with a CRM, or I'm a CRM expert. I
mm,
would look for answers like, I'm very good at, thinking very creatively, or I'm very good at doing something that you wouldn't find AI would be able to do, and that would be the first criteria. And then the second criteria I would ask is, if someone come to a business interview and tell me what their skill is, I would
mm.
ask them if they already know how to use AI or augment their skill with AI, which is very important. So The roles, to get back to your question, the roles that are going to change in business, and the roles that are going to change in how people work, is that people are going to be expected more and more to think creatively and try and think out of the box, and try and think, what would AI not be able to handle in this process, or what would AI not be able to achieve, and how could I potentially use AI to aspire to achieve that. That would be the first thing. You aren't going to see people do manual data entry. You aren't going to see people respond. I think communication is going to fundamentally change. The first two layers of communication is going to all be handled through AI, and that won't ever change. The more personal touch that a human may need to give after it's gone through AI will still need to be there. But I do think that roles are going to dramatically change, where if you're in an organization, or if you are aspiring to be part of an organization, I think that what you in your mind have an idea of what you may be doing, I think is going to be very different in the future. But the same goes over to business roles. So businesses need to understand what business that they're in as well today, which is very important. A business that is in the e-commerce space isn't anymore in the space of just selling something online. They're more in the space of, now, if they want to get ahead of their competitors, understand what questions their customers are asking to improve a product range, what their next few products should be based on market trends and what everyone's asking out there. It's no longer around hopes and preferences. It's now more around data and like true objectives. So what I do think is that the roles in business are going to fundamentally shift from anything manual or anything that we couldn't use AI to do, and the roles in the workplace are going to change as well dramatically.
And of course, it's who gets to the customer first, which is such a pivotal directional ploy. Who handles queries first? Who's able to give accurate information? Who's able to answer that call instantly? Talk to me about pricing. How does pricing creep into this equation? Because with all this technology, it certainly does come at a cost. How are we getting people on board here?
Sure. So this one's very and it's something, in meetings, our team present this product, and then the question always comes up, well, what is your pricing? And it is a very interesting concept, because there's and I heard the saying somewhere, so I'm not saying I came up with it, but I heard the saying somewhere, where there's difference between a price and there's difference between a cost. So a price is something that is just like a fee that you pay, whereas a cost is something that you essentially pay in a transaction, but it's a cost to acquire more customers, or it's a cost to improve an operation. So
It's an
what I would
investment.
say, exactly. So what I would say is that if you look at AI, it's more of an investment cost rather than a price. And what I would say is that when we look at these costs, it is definitely not something that is in any way. AI is never going to be free. It's not something that you are ever going to be able to have in your business at a zero cost, because there's costs to compute. There's costs to create the technology itself. If you use any free product, I would literally like ask of you to
But
interact with
Liam,
it for more than
I
yeah.
would add to saying that the cost is essentially the saving.
Exactly. It's exactly that. So, if you pay whatever you want for an AI service or an AI technology, it's always going to come down to what you're going to save or make out of that.
I
So,
mean, if I can just, I have to jump in here because there are many companies and organizations that we work with that have reduced their human deployment in certain departments because of this assistant. So
yeah,
for me, that's an immediate saving. So it essentially is the cost plus result which organizations need to be looking at. They need to be looking at the measurable cost of saving and the measurable cost of efficiency in order to quantify the value. Would you agree with
Yeah.
that?
100%. And you could say that saving is also making more. But what I would say is that it's definitely about reduction in costs, but it's also about creation, right? Where a business can create more opportunity and can create more revenue streams, and in that, your cost isn't just on saving; it's also on creating, and it's also on potentially doing a lot more than what you could have.
Well, in closing, I mean, I watch you essentially deploy 10 to 15 hours a day behind your screen. What the hell are you doing all day?
Well, today was an interesting day because there were a few more new models that were released, so we investigated that. We added a few new, very interesting technologies and components to our technology. We obviously spend all day, and the team spend all day onboarding clients. And what you need to do, and the only way to sort of stay ahead, or I can't even use the word stay ahead, the only way to like really try and stay with the trend, or try and stay relevant, is to literally spend 10 to 15 hours a day, all day, every day, on weekends, during the holidays, on exploring this technology, because no one's waiting for you. No one's going to wait for you to wake up. No one's going to wait for you to go to bed. Essentially, the technology is here. It's moving. Your competitors are implementing it quicker and quicker. And every second you're awake, and every living second you can spend on improving your product, improving your business, implementing AI into your business. Every second you can doing that, the and I'm not even going to say the more ahead you're going to be. I'm going to say the more relevant you're going to be able to stay. Because getting ahead into today's AI world is near impossible. It is sticking with the trend, which is very important, and it is literally learning and implementing on a daily basis. So you asked me what I did today. That is it. We created, we invested, we learned a little bit more, and naturally, with all of that, you have to fail. Otherwise, you're not going to grow. And that was essentially what we did today.
So there's no price on freedom. Well done, Liam Webb. It's always a
No,
pleasure talking to you. Well done.
likewise. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.